Today, U.S. District Court Judge Tanya Chutkan placed a partial gag order on former President Donald Trump in his 2020 federal election interference case here in Washington. The request for a gag order was made by special counsel Jack Smith. Smith argued that Trump's comments about the case could influence the public and intimidate witnesses. Trump disagreed. His lawyers argued that a gag order would be a violation of his First Amendment right to free speech and added the gag order on the political candidate for president is political interference. But Judge Chutkan did not seem to think so and issued a limited gag order. It bars Trump from attacking witnesses, prosecutors, and court staff. It does not impose restrictions on statements about Washington, D.C. and the D.C. jury pool. Judge Chutkan also did not place restrictions on criticisms of the Biden administration or restrictions on statements Trump makes about the case being, quote, politically motivated. Judge Chutkan says she will consider sanctions if these restrictions are violated, but she did not specify what those sanctions might be. So, what did the president do after the judge issued her gag order? Well, you probably guessed that one. He went to Truth Social to write, quote, "We'll appeal the gag order ruling witch hunt," end quote. And also today, Judge Chutkan said she will not delay Trump's trial date. That means his trial will begin on March 4th. Of course, that's the day before the all-important Super Tuesday primary elections. Gray Analytics Vice President, General Counsel, former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, Jay Town, joins me. Good evening, Jay. And what does it mean to attack? Who's going to define attack, prosecutors, witnesses, and court staff? How's that going to be defined? Who gets to decide that? I guess the judge?
Well, ultimately, you're correct, Greta. But, you know, is it an attack when one of these witnesses goes on the Sunday morning news shows and says how exposed Donald Trump is to criminal liability in the January 6th case or any of these other cases? And so Trump responds and says that person is not telling the truth. That was not our conversation. And, you know, the three words that really caught my eye in Judge Chutkan's order was that Trump, by attacking people, is implicitly encouraging violence. Well, that sounds eerily similar to the theory surrounding his speech at the Ellipse. That's right in front of this court. And so now he's not charged with causing an insurrection, but you can bet that this is going to be some of the evidence that is used regarding the alternate elector theory. So I found that to be very troubling. You know, when Bill Barr, my old boss, who I like Bill, but he can go on the Sunday shows and say that he thinks that Trump is guilty, and Trump can't say a word back. So there's this megaphone for witnesses, but not for Trump. And I just find it to be a violation of the First Amendment.
Or if he does respond, he has to worry: is the judge going to think that's an attack, or is the judge going to think that that's my political speech, or that's me responding? I mean, it's like, you know, that's the whole word. It's like, what does attack mean? I mean, it's you know.
And how does he imply violence? Like, go commit violence against Bill Barr because I just suggested to you that he was wrong. Right? I mean, is this total eye of the beholder of the judge that is implicitly encouraging violence? It's really quite ridiculous when you're going to issue a gag order that is, quote unquote, narrowly tailored. It needs to be exact language, exact parameters. And this one is as broad as it gets, even though she wouldn't like it to be refined that way.
I must say, though, that one thing that did catch my attention, which she said, "I will not impose further restrictions on statements about Washington, D.C. and the jury pool." Now, the first thing I thought of was, like, if you're a defendant, the last thing you want to be doing is saying rotten things about the jury pool. I mean, that's pretty stupid because they're going to be deciding your fate. But secondly, the jury pool, 93% of the jury pool in the city voted against him. I mean, so it's sort of an uphill battle. So So she's going to let him say mean, rotten things about them, but he does that at his own peril. He does that at his own peril.
And he could probably, I'm sure she wouldn't gag him from admitting to his offenses, right? You know, and saying he's sorry about committing these crimes. That won't be gagged. I mean, you know, that's how sort of ridiculous this is. I do expect them to appeal very shortly. And I don't expect the D.C. Circuit to disagree with Judge Chutkan, which would streamline this to the Supreme Court this fall.
And of course, let me repeat the thing that bothers me the most about Judge Chutkan on this presiding over this case is when she set this case for trial from March 4th, the government gave 12.8 million documents to the defense discovery, which means that they would have to read 66,000 plus per day, including holidays, weekends, to be ready for trial, which is insane. No lawyer can do that, and every good lawyer has to read every document. But to even make it even more offensive is that they had to file pretrial motions well in advance of that, and you can't file a pretrial motion unless you've read all the discovery, which is 12.8 million pages. So, it is just so grossly unfair the way this process. I don't know whether he's guilty or not. I mean, that's for the jury. But at least make a level playing field, make it fair.
Yeah, it's definitely tilted. We have an AI tool at Gray Analytics that can help you, President Trump, if you're interested in your defense team. But it really has been unfair. And honestly, she's also made some statements about Trump that shouldn't surprise us when she levels these rulings against him.
And we'll see what happens. J-Town, thank you.
Thanks, Greta.